work with them in any opportunity that we're asked to. I don't expect anything less of the fire chief and his staff, because it is a problem for the whole city, and it doesn't do a whole lot just sitting here spinning our wheels and saying, well, who did this and who did that and where's the smoking gun and who didn't do what they were supposed to do. That's not the problem. The problem is the budget for EMT, and the solution has to come forthwith. So as commission president, I remain dedicated to that. It's been the case for the last 2 months, and we'll continue to do that. We just hope that they're receptive to any involvement with the department, because I'm going to find it very difficult for them to come to a solution if they don't involve city staff and the public. So I hope everything they do is in public. The public has a right to know, and we'll move on. So I got that off my chest. Protocol has it, and Robert's rules has it, that I couldn't comment on during the council meeting the other night. It was hard to sit there on my hands. Sometimes my hands started to go up in the air. Mayor wouldn't have seen me anyhow because I was behind somebody, but it's unusual for me not to want to comment on something that we're involved with. But be it as it may, I knew I'd have an opportunity here to share where our position is as a department and as a commission. We'll move forward. So, Andy.
I appreciate your comments, and I think this is a significant enough issue that we should probably meet just on that issue in the next week or two, so that we aren't behind the city's analysis of the situation, that we do our own work. So I would recommend that to you.
I will take that into consideration. Thank you.
And just a follow-up on that, I think we could have some more discussion about item 16.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, are there any other comments from anybody or questions? Again, I want to give credit where credit's due to people that all put up. And there's a lot of time and effort put into that to try to make it clear to everybody where we're at. That shouldn't go unnoticed. So, thank you.
I think it was very adequate too.
Okay, we'll move into approval of the minutes of the July 21st regular meeting.
Move approval.
Motion to approve, second.
Take a second.
And second.
Steve.
Okay, Steve, okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes of July 21st, 2022 special meeting.
Move approval.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second that, and then I'll have a correction.
Okay, second. Go ahead, Bill.
On page 5B, which would be page 2 of the special minutes, if we go down to the third paragraph, in the middle, Commissioner Penker discussed the public information officer doing the notifications of serious incidents for the county. That probably should read, Commissioner Penker discussed the public information officer in Marathon County doing the press releases for the Marathon County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, so noted. Are there any other questions or comments on the minutes? We have motion second to approve as amended. All in favor, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
it's not an agenda item, but I did take minutes for the special meeting of the Police and Fire Commission on August 2. Consider those or not.
Well, I think we probably should. It's, again, it's not an agenda item.
We can consider them at the next meeting.
We can consider it at the next meeting.
Okay.
We'll put that in our item number 16. Thank you for taking a minute to that meeting. That was the one with the city and the commission. Okay. You notice we went outside of the usual agenda. We have a couple people that have an obligation this morning, so they've been asked to move it up on the agenda, and we're certainly happy to accommodate them. Police department bills. Chief.
Thank you all. And I would like to mention my appreciation for all of you for moving me up on the agenda, the police department business on the agenda. I'm going to be attending a funeral for Dr. Clark Pottle, who's a mentor of mine, passed away about a week ago. And I appreciate the opportunity to go there and pay tribute to him. So the bills, you have one set of bills in your packet. And then one that was given to me that I believe was signed just on today. The first set of bills was signed by Commissioner Myers back on the 27th, and then one yesterday by Commissioner Steingraber. In looking at them, there's a couple of things that I thought might be confusing. On page 6A in the first set of packet, there's a tripod that's a photography style tripod. We bought 2 of those for our sniper team. They are not getting into photography, but they do use the tripod as a stable platform. And evidently, if we skimp on those, they are not stable, which we don't want. So we did purchase 2 of those for a certain kind of height that they use. And then again on 6E in the same packet, there's personal evaluations. That's part of our interview process. We have a integrity test that we subcontract or have a subscription to a company who does those analysis for us and helps us to vet our new employees. So with that, I'd entertain any questions you have and ask for your approval of both packets.
There's an issue this morning because of this crazy finance thing about having the bills approved. So we'll take the set of bills we have with the packet, and those are the ones that I signed on the 27th of July. And I'm going to entertain a motion to approve those first. Your motion?
Also move.
Motion by Keel, second.
Second.
Second by Steingraber.
And I would like to pull page 6D, the reimbursement via the uniform allowance for binoculars as a separate item.
Six B.
16 dog. B.
Okay. Okay.
Spencer Kevin's.
You want to
Fourth one down.
hold?
Yeah.
Good.
I want to pull that for separate discussion.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead, Andy.
The last item on the ones approved by Commissioner Myers is the Wisconsin Department of Justice time rental, $1,271.75. What is time rental to the Department of Justice?
I can yield to Lori because she's the expert in that area.
The time system is the dedicated line. It's the BadgerNet secure line with the state of Wisconsin. And we share a line in Wood County with Wood County Sheriff's Department and Wisconsin Rapids Police Department. So that's how we get our license plate checks, people checks, enter the warrants, all that information. So we pay a monthly fee, but they bill us quarterly.
Okay, thank you.
Is the proper way to go about it would be to take that item that Bill has concern about and address that first.
Okay. My first question is, if we have binoculars, it's coming coming out of the uniform allowance. Binoculars, to me, would be hardware that the department should be purchasing. And if we have someone who needs binoculars for enforcement activities and it's not in the budget, then in the future, we're gonna have to budget for binoculars. I know Commissioner Keough and I had a question about this, especially referenced the price. Okay, especially reference the price. We know that, good binoculars, high quality binoculars don't cost $145. So Chief, yield to you on this.
Yep, we do have some binoculars in squad cars. They are dated and we should update it and will. The ones that are listed here were bought through our department store, which we sell at like 15% over cost. So the smaller price, some of the smaller price may explain the discount that's given when we buy them through our store. In the past, we have allowed officers to purchase binoculars. I purchased myself some binoculars through the uniform allowance that I needed for patrol. Some of the smaller size ones are nice because you can put them in a pocket or you can carry them with you a little bit easier than some of the more expensive ones. But I actually appreciate you guys bringing this forward because I'm all about getting better equipment for our guys and gals.
Well, $144, when I saw that number, I thought, they're gonna go banging around and they're gonna be out of adjustment before you turn around. And if you're talking about small pocket binoculars, there for sure you wanna buy quality. It doesn't make any sense to me either to purchase them out of a uniform allowance. Seems to me that's the same thing as other equipment an officer's required to carry. When I look at Lieutenant Esser, when he was standing here in front of me, his vest has all sorts of stuff hanging on it. My guess is he didn't pay for any of that out of his uniform allowance. And I don't think binoculars should have to be paid for out of that either. So I guess for me, I would prefer seeing a little better quality because they're going to last longer. You're going to see through them better, and they ought to be equipment purchase, not uniforms. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Same concern you have, Bill?
Same concern.
Okay.
And though I question this, I will vote for the packet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the packet that's been presented in the package? The ones that I signed. Okay, roll call, please.
Keough,
Yes.
Kimber,
Yes.
Steinkramer,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes. Okay, thanks. The next item would be to address the bills that were signed yesterday for the police department. I'll preface addressing these separately by saying that we have a problem with how City Hall does their finance, their pays their bills. I think Lori could probably, don't want to put you on the spot, would probably best address what the direction is from City Hall as far as paying and approving the bills. This is an ongoing discussion on the commission and we have to get a handle on it. Not today, but we have to work with city administration and stuff to get something that's gonna work. Because it's fumbling things up from the way we've always done it, so.
So our bills are due every 2 weeks. Once in a while, there's an extra week in there. And of course, we only meet once a month. And this happened to fall where the bills were due yesterday and we meet today. If you guys don't approve those today, they pretty much have to wait till September 15th. And as finance explained, then we could have late fees and extra, penalties or whatever on our bills if they're not paid on time. We did try to set up some type of a thing to help us with this, where when Cindy or myself, when the bills were due, and the commissioner that was responsible for the bills that month would come in, or that section of the month would come in and sign those. They would go through them, review them, audit them, and sign those. We have been emailing those to all the commissioners so that they can look at them prior to them going into the packet, hoping that that would, take care of this issue. I know the commission feels differently about that. They would prefer to approve them as a group here. So I guess that's where we're at. If anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them.
Any questions in regards to the policy or the procedure that's been sent down from the finance department?
Let me,
Go ahead.
I'll preempt Andy on this. We have had this conflict that commissioners are looking at a particular standard that's in the statute. And it appears that if we follow the statute, finance is in a sense bypassing us. We had asked for a memo of understanding to clarify that. We have not received one. I think at this point, it behooves us to get an official interpretation, not from finance, but from the League of Municipalities that deals with this sort of thing on a regular basis. And we need that opinion as soon as possible.
I'll just echo what you're saying, and Phil, and I wanted to include the city attorney as well, an opinion from him as to where we're supposed to be in a position to cooperate with the city finance department. I think it's important. I've gone so far as to say I would look for volunteers from the commission to work through this problem with either the league or the city attorney and the finance department. Two prime candidates that could probably possibly work together to come up with a solution for this. You being one and Andy being the other one. He's been the most vocal about it, and it's not that I'm not concerned about it. It's just that I don't have any answers for it except to just keep doing what we're doing. And how many times do they have late fees and things? I mean, like they're never going to get money out of the city if they wait an extra month with vendors. I don't know. It's black and white for finance, and that's.
Well, wait a minute. It is black and white in state statute.
Yeah, I agree.
To audit all bills, claims, and expenses of the fire and police departments before the same are paid by the city treasurer. That's a pretty declarative sentence, and it's not very damn complicated. We have to approve the bills before they're paid. Now, they have procedures in the finance department. They've got to adapt to state law, not to what we like.
I agree.
The bills, for example, that were presented to us when I walked in this morning, I'm not voting on. I haven't had a chance to look at them.
Okay. Steve, you want to chime in on anything?
I guess there's statute and there's real life and there's gray area in between. I understand there's a lot of black and white in the statute. I'm not disputing what you guys have to say. But I mean, even in the policy for the PD and real life and things, there's a certain amount of, you guys got officer discretion. You have discretion as commanders of the fire department. There's a point where there has to be a policy directive to be able to deal with that. I mean, even in defense and arrest tactics, right? You have those three things. This is the way you're trained it, the closest as you can get, and whatever it takes to do to get the job done. That's the three pillars of that and how that works. I know you disagree with this thought. It might behoove us that we might end up somewhere in the middle as a commission and have to have policies for ourselves, have thought ahead of time, this is acceptable, this is not. So if for time constraints to in the stance that we're in with the city, we are not the only player here, we have other people to play in the sandbox with. It might behoove us to spend some time on this after we get this legal ruling, whatever it is, and have some policy for this commission for a clear direction on what's acceptable and what's not, and what do you do if it's not acceptable. That, that way things can still be efficiently paid, and yet the will of the commission is still met. I don't have that answer, that's gonna be time.
Which is why we need the opinion from the League of Municipalities and the city attorney. And as I noted earlier, we had requested a memo of understanding as to the procedure and legalities on this, which we had not received. So at this point, I think we have to march forward and get the answers as it relates to this commission.
I don't like the move. Okay, Lori, you got something you want to mention?
I just want to add also, I know there's things like the phone, I'm not sure exactly what all bills, but when the city went over to the new software, they also created the P cards for several of the staff where they can go and make purchases right on the spot that are paid. And I believe the city has like a credit card that they use for a lot of the bills, like the phone. So I think that stuff is paid, and I'm not positive, but I think that stuff is paid prior to it coming to you as well. Just thought it's paid that out.
My responsibilities as a commissioner are defined by state law. I would hate to see the city penalized because they paid bills later than the vendor wanted you to. In my head, I don't have a choice here. The state law says, and that's the way it is. And if someone has to accommodate, let the finance department accommodate. Now, what accommodation that would be, I have no idea. But I don't think we have any choice. The state law, that is a simple declarative sentence. And do you know how odd it is to find a simple declarative sentence in state statutes? It says very clearly what our responsibility is. And I can't meet it if I don't have the stuff in front of me to look at, audit if you like, in advance. It doesn't work.
Jennifer, being new, we did forward that state statute off to her, 6213.6C, is it? To her yesterday as far as that language is concerned. So she now has that, if she didn't before.
I think it's a tough thing, and I understand it's complex, and there are lots of other interests to be involved, but my charge is in that section of the state statute. I can't change that.
Again, I hate to put two people on the spot by volunteering them for.
Oh, no, you don't. Don't.
Without talking to you ahead of time about it, but it was clear to me that if we were to have any further discussion on this, I certainly wanted to have the two of you involved.
Well, Bill and I will do it.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully we do have this set of bills to address any way you wish, so I'll take a motion to approve the bills, or you want to present them first?
In looking at them, I didn't see anything of note, but I wouldn't answer any questions if anyone's had a chance to look at them.
Okay, I need a motion to approve those bills.
Having already reviewed them, I will make the motion to approve.
There's a second?
I will second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Theo,
I'll abstain because I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Finger,
Yes.
Steingraber,
Yes.
and Myers.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for volunteering.
We voluntolding?
Get a free set of binoculars if you your job.
Almost free.
I tell you, for $144, you might find him in a cereal box.
So. Chief, we'll move on with the presentation of the new vest that you.
Did you want, is activities next, or
Pardon me?
was activities?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, activity. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
That's caffeine.
You'll probably note in the activities, the training is down slightly. That's not uncommon in the summer months. Officers are using their vacation and doing stuff with their family. We were pretty busy with the budget this last month. I'm really proud and happy for my team that helped me through it. My first year around the table. Part of that team is here today. We still do continue to collaborate with our community partners and reaching out where we can, and I'm proud of that too. So unless there's any questions, I'd ask that they be put on file.
If we go to page 7B, item, be on the date of the 27th of July. Thank you very much, actually, to both departments for the resistive subjects training. And there was something that came across, I think it was Firewire, last week, that AMR American Medical Response at one of their units in Oregon, Multnomah County, or I think that's up around Portland. They have had paramedics being attacked routinely, as well as their vehicles being attacked. Nobody's been able to sort out why it's happening, but whether it's inside or outside the vehicle, certainly the training that's been done here is commendable.
Officer Scheffler is very passionate about self-defense and safety, and he was very excited to do that training here. So, and I know that he looks forward to doing more.
Any other comments on the activity? Seeing none, we'll place those on file. Thank you, Chief. Chief, presentation of a new vest option.
When we're a pretty visible group of people in the city, and whenever we have new equipment, I like to make sure that the commission is aware of what we have. And some of this will probably make a lot of sense to you, especially with our conversation we had before the meeting. This is an example of a new vest carrier that I'd like to offer to our folks. If you look at Lieutenant Esser's vest, I thought that the style was very similar to what we're wearing right now. Some of the issues we're having with this style is that we have this exposed zipper, and so if we do become involved in confrontation, this zipper is exposed and can, if not take off or at least loosen that vest, certainly become distracting enough to where your attention is diverted onto that zipper instead of the person that you're trying to subdue. It also gets in the way of how we mount the camera. If the camera mounted off to the side, there's a chance that when we have our arms out, that starts to block the view a little bit more, so a more centered mount would be preferred. The pockets are becoming increasingly smaller with this style of vest, so things like binoculars won't fit in this. Our phones that we carry with us, that we use for the department phones we use for pictures and that sort of thing, don't really fit into these pockets very well, and that problem is amplified when we have a smaller officer because that vest becomes even smaller yet.
Could you, it's black on black and I can't tell.
Sure. Yeah, come on up here. It is a little bit harder to see. So in the last part that worries me the most, that if we want to go into a higher protective plate, like a rifle plate or anything like that, it's very difficult to put them into a style like this. Most of them, I'm not sure with this particular one, but most of them you have to reach either behind or try to squirm it into here. The biggest difference in the view with these is just that instead of the two pockets in the front, there's just one big pocket that opens up into one pouch. But on the bottom here, if you lift up on the bottom, these are large pockets where we can just slide plates in. So as we're wearing the vest, we'd be able just to slide that in, rather than having to take the vest off and slide underneath or squirm it into the zipper. There's no zipper model on this one. It does have larger pockets, and they're not separated, so we can put larger items in there. And there's a lot of room for it still actually to close same Molly style for the pouches that we have here. On the back, there's a rescue strap that we can use that's fairly subdued. We can put a police patch on the back, and also there's a pocket for to slide a rear plate in for rifle. Added comfort with it, there's padded straps on it, which we could also grab to pull too. They're thicker. I just wanted to make sure that the commission saw the differences, and if wondered why we were looking at different vest carriers, those are the biggest reasons why. And unless there's any disapproval, I guess I would like to start allowing our officers to purchase these. They would be purchased either when they buy the new vest after the 5-year warranty is up, or they could purchase it out of uniform allowance as well.
The one you're holding in your hand, now, this has ballistic,
The ballistic plates aren't in it right now, but we would add the plates to it.
so there's no protection in the vest as it is here.
No.
But you put the plate, what is that?
So there's 2 different kinds of plates. We carry, the day-to-day plates are like what Travis has now, they're a little thinner. But if we go to an active scene, we can drop in a bigger plate, which is basically just a sheet of metal that we can just drop right in.
And the weight of those is?
They're becoming less and less.
6-ish pounds, maybe.
Okay.
The officers will wear what's called a level 3A panel, pliable panel in the front and the back of these, and then the rifle plates that Jody's talking about, up to a level 4, which can stop most rifle rounds, and then the ability to slide those in quickly could be pretty advantageous if we were going to something where we knew there would be potential for a rifle round.
My ultimate goal is that right now we have a go kit. We have another vest in our vehicles that we can put over top of the vest that we're wearing that'll give us that extra protection for rifle. The problem with that is that it covers the equipment that we're used to using day to day, and it also covers our camera. We don't have a mounting system on the exterior vest to slide the camera on, and probably wouldn't have time or think about it to move it. What I can do with the vest this style is potentially have those plates in each of their vehicles, which takes up less room, and then they could just grab those plates. It would take us a little time to move into that, but that's my ultimate goal.
There is no zipper.
Everything is Velcro.
How do you get in and out of this thing?
Yeah, this comes up,
Oh,
straps here, so
gotcha.
yeah, in a fight, that is going to be protected.
Yeah.
So, again, unless there's any extreme disapproval, I do want to allow our officers to wear this.
Yeah, seems like a good idea to me.
I like it's very modular. It's very modular, I love it.
So everything else, all the hardware you have on there, Travis, is all Velcro onto?
No, it's a kind of a loop and latch system here, and what they call a Molly system, which is all that webbing. And then you just weave that in between and it snaps wherever you call it. It's pretty solid. It actually takes some effort to get it in there and get it snug down, so.
I know the part that goes here, they'll still be able to stand like.
Yeah, we'll still be able to do this. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to start teaching all of our dynamic movements from this position. All right, thank you all.
Great, thank you. Good presentation.
Go with that.
Okay, are there any questions on the new vest? Really got a very solid green light on that, Chief. Go ahead.
Thank you all.
And thank you for showing it to us.
Yeah. It's important to have a hands-on kind of thing. We'll go into the review of the police department, the law enforcement budget. Chief, go ahead.
Okay, and I know that you all are reviewing this a little bit later than you usually do, and thank you for the accommodation. We needed some extra numbers from finance, and they were pressed, and they're learning as well. So we do appreciate you giving us the extra time. The city did ask that we keep our increases to 2%. That's really difficult to do. Obviously, especially with our contract wage increases of approximately 2.75 to 3%. We've got increase in costs. Some utilities are projected to increase as much as 12%. So we struggled, but I do think that we did come up with a budget that does meet our needs to provide an excellent service to our city. And also, I think that it's fiscally responsible. We were able to keep our overall increase to just 3.2%. And much of that is because of the, if you remember the chicken scratching that I sent in your packets on the Axon. This is an Axon renewal year, which is very expensive. Axon is our body cameras and tasers, along with the cameras that are in our vehicles. And it's a 5-year contract, and 5 years ago, technology was less expensive than it is today. So we were able to negotiate what I think to be a very fair deal with Axon. However, I did increase our percentage slightly. So with that, I would entertain or try to entertain any questions. I do have a couple members of my team to help me along. I would look for your approval.
I have one comment.
So overall is a 3.2%.
Yep. Lori had something to add too.
Mike, I have one comment.
Sure.
If you would, President. The Axon is so valuable for law enforcement. It's not just the equipment, but it's also the cloud where we store our body cam and our squad cam footage. And the ease of that program in being able to release those files to our district attorney's office instead of burning them individually, the DVDs, CDs, has saved our department so much time. And also, I believe strongly that having Axon body camera and squad cameras has reduced 95% of any court trial times. The evidence is there. The attorneys are seeing the evidence, so they're doing plea deals rather than going to jury trial. So it is saving, I believe, so much time and money for our city to be able to keep our officers in our town.
Let me just add to that. When body cameras first came out, one of the biggest concerns of departments was, how do we store the data? Do we store it for 2 days? Do we put it until it's a possible trial? How long do we store it forever? And it became really a space issue. Now with the cloud, departments don't have to worry about that. And I do have a question. How long do you have to retain the records?
It varies with the crime. So we retain everything, I believe, 90 days for officer complaints, that sort of
for
thing.
officer
Yeah, so like we can go back approximately 90 days if someone comes in to complain, or so we have that footage. And that alone has saved us so much grief, because you go back and you look at the camera and usually it's a misunderstanding that you can work out. We have, if we have a felony, we could retain that up to the statute of limitations, which would be 7 years. If we have convictions, we may have to retain that for even longer. So it all depends on what kind of crime we're dealing with.
And I'm glad we have the storage system that we do. I had a professional colleague who was involved in environmental testing for his company. And with environmental testing, you have some of these statutory retention rates. Some is 20 years, some is 25, some is forever. And as he was telling me, his greatest fear was not losing the records. His greatest fear was being subpoenaed and going into the court and saying, Your Honor, these were recorded on an Apple I computer. We don't have one anymore. We don't have anything that's going to do a disk that's that large.
It'd be like bringing a VHS tape in today.
Yes, same thing. So I'm very glad we've got that system now. You want a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion to discuss it any further.
I move to approve the fiscal plan for the police department.
Motion,
A second?
second by
That's
Steve.
fine, that's fine. Steve will second.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I'll ask one. that I try and ask every year. Is there anything that you felt you really needed that you either took out of your proposed budget before we saw it, or you didn't put in because it cost too much, or you didn't think it would flop?
We didn't. I think we had a really good plan, and my thought was we're going to present what we need.
Okay.
And that's what we did.
That's fine, thank you. Because, everyone has to remember, part of the commission's job is if you find that there is a new duplicate that costs a lot of money, but it really is important to you, it's part of our job to help the council understand that that should be supported.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, for someone who has not dealt with payroll and time and all that stuff on the law enforcement side of things in that detail, what is comp time and shift differential? Because I don't know.
Comp time is, it's extra time that an officer can use. So one way that it's used is if we have an officer that works overtime, they can accrue comp time, which is time and a half, as a bank.
Okay.
Contract says that they can only have a certain amount in, and once it goes over that amount, it's paid off, paid at a straight rate, because it's secured at time and a half.
Okay.
So we also have, the comp time is used for, at the end of the year, that we have a certain contracted amount that they can turn in for pay as well. So we have to have money in the bank to cover that comp time that's secured. The shift differential is after, it's for people that work nights. They get a little bit of boosted pay. I think it's like 40 cents, 43 cents an hour. So that's what the shift differential pay is.
Okay, gotcha. The other thing I was wondering about on 9I in here, reimbursed expenses. What is that and why is it a negative number?
That was a very good question and one that I had too. And so reimbursed, it's weird because if something is gained to the department, it's shown as a negative. The way it was
So
explained.
that's like the donation checks and things we see in the back every month. That kind of stuff.
So it's money we get in.
Gotcha, okay. And I think this is probably the last one. 9M, what is the car allowance?
Car allowance that's mine. Give me $1,200 a year for a car allowance.
Okay,
Take my vehicle wherever.
gotcha, okay. Okay, that's what we're here to ask questions. The kennel service for K9, 9T. Is there, is that for when the officer's out of town?
Yep, so our K9 officers to date have been very, very good with working out people to watch the dog when they can't. It's their responsibility to do that, but the department did contract that if they are not able to find someone, that we would cover kennel costs because we need to ensure that the safety of our dog and that dog is protected from other people.
Okay, gotcha. I think that's it.
Thank you. Good questions.
Yeah, good questions. It's good. It's refreshing sometimes if you've seen the budget year after year that you take it for granted everybody knows, so.
Actually, sorry, I have one more. 9, I did that one.
That's one too many.
Steve, they've all been good questions so far.
I don't want to keep holding you from going where you're going.
Okay.
But training and professional development, why is it that it seems like the support civilian entities of the department keep getting cut for training?
I need to direct me where you're at.
9V, middle of the page.
I'm sorry, 9D or B?
B is in Victor, sorry. Training and professional development. Looks like the civilian support, chaplains, all that stuff, training opportunities keep getting cut for those non-direct action parts of the department. I'm just wondering what's behind that.
Well, in the past, we had a larger amount in there and they honestly just weren't being used.
Okay.
And so we looked at this budget saying that, we need to have more accurate representation of what we're spending. So if we haven't used something for a while, we would just cut back on it.
Okay.
But that certainly is something that if we start to use more, like, so our chaplain program has dwindled a little bit, so there hasn't been many people in. Now we're starting to get more chaplains in, so we don't have very many yet, but there's some interest. If we start to grow that group more, we're gonna budget more.
Okay. Are the gals in the office that are making sure all the rest sick, are they getting what they need?
They are, there's been a lot of webinars lately, you know, rather than in person because of COVID the last couple of years. So hopefully that's going to change. A big conference that we always went to, the state's not been having for the last, and they're not having it this year. So it's been 3 years in a row that we haven't had that major conference to go to. So and we get new hires in, so we don't send them off. They got so much other stuff to learn first before we send them off to training. And same thing with myself. I'm included in this, Cindy's included in this, so our conferences have not been available.
Okay. I was just hoping it was that and not that stuff was getting caught, and that was what was being skipped.
If I'm reading it right, and if I remember it right from 2021, that stuff in yellow means that it was cut for 2022. We actually are bumping it back up again in 2022.
No, I see that. I'm just wondering why it had been cut the last time, and if we go duking it out with the city.
Mostly COVID. I know we talked about that these people weren't probably going to travel for training, and a lot of our officers didn't either, but that was why.
Thank you. And then, last thing, I think, 9W, operating supplies, towards the bottom conversion to 9mm, is that now what's going on for primary duty weapon, 49?
Yep, we converted, I think we completed this year or last year.
This year we did.
Yeah, so everybody is carrying 9mm now.
Got it, okay.
And I'll just jump in and say thank you, Stephen, because I'm the newbie here, and it gives me a more clear perspective also. So thank you for all the questions. If you have one more, that would be great.
He's up next, or whenever we get to him.
If you could, Chief, I believe in giving credit where credit is due. Could you just voice who your team involved putting this together?
I'm sorry.
It's on your cover letter.
Yep.
Could you give recognition to the people who helped you put this budget together?
Yeah, absolutely. Along with myself was Assistant Chief Zups, Administrative Services Supervisor Lori Crookstrom was here, Detective Jason Parks, Lieutenant Travis S. are also here, Lieutenant Jason Punky, and Administrative Associate Cindy Getz. Dream team.
Good job.
It was an interesting experience, wasn't it?
It was fun.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the proposed 2023 law enforcement budget. Are there any other questions or comments? Good question. Roll call.
Keo,
Yes.
Pinker,
Yes.
Steingraber, Myers.
Yes. Thank you.
If I can interject, be excused to attend the funeral.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving to item number 10, which is the fire service and law enforcement news updates. Bill.
Number of interesting ideas. Two from New Orleans. Their city council approves facial recognition technology. And as noted here, a number of civic and business groups argued for months that dropping the council's earlier restrictions would give the city's depleted force, that references the next page, more tools, to effectively complete enforcement activities. New Orleans, like some other cities, has seen a drop in law enforcement roles. In the case of New Orleans, they originally were authorized for 1,300 officers. Now they have less than 1,000. They are still losing officers, and as the exit surveys commissioned by the city found, their officers are not satisfied. They're not satisfied with command. Pay is way down on their list of issues. But they had great problems with command and the way the agency is operating.
A quick question to Lieutenant Esser. Have you given any thought to recruiting in New Orleans?
Not specifically there, no. Recruiting in general.
There's an opportunity.
Next item, Florida Canine. The canine, the canine officer was shot 3 times during an armed confrontation. The dog did survive, and the handlers and the department are crediting canine first aid and canine rescue training for saving the dog. Plus, it was airlifted, just like any other officer would have been. The colored picture that I saw with the dog in the veterinary center looked really happy. So he was recovering well. And the suspects, however, the fire department dog, they were deceased by the end of the incident. On the next page, that's just another portion of that. Interesting one from Georgia. Brockhaven, Georgia Police Department has received FAA authorization to fly drones beyond the visual line of sight. They are using those in what's known as DFR, Drone First Responder Program, so that the drone is arriving at an incident before the officers is able to bring back real-time footage of what's going on. These apparently are pre-staged within their service area, and they estimate that their average response time is about 2 minutes with the pre-staged units. They're following a model from Chula Vista, California. Fire service side, there was a fire last month in Boston. 9 firefighters suffered heat injuries due to the high heats. Fire service line of duty deaths, the latest list. Again, COVID is disappearing from the list. Cardiac is reappearing as the largest one. And when you look at the yet to be determined medical events, they usually wind up being cardiacs or strokes. There was another traffic incident involving fire apparatus. A private vehicle failed to yield to the emergency vehicle, and 2 firefighters died as a result. Now, regarding traffic incidents, command staff's already seen this. I'll pass the picture around. The Tennessee City Volunteer Fire Department, this occurred early in July, has its headquarters station in Dixon, Tennessee, which is about 32 miles west of Nashville. In late July, units responded to a semi-fire on I-40, which was their location was about 50 miles west of Nashville. A U-Haul van approached the scene at highway speed and did not slow down or attempt to avoid the units on the highway. This included a tanker that was being used as a blocking unit. The van struck 2 fire department units, personnel, and injured a fire captain who was airlifted to Vanderbilt University. He survived with a leg injury. He's expected to return to the department. On August 3rd, I did call the department, and I talked with their on-duty officer. The captain is at home, he's recovering, and he wants to get back to duty. I'll put these pictures around for you, but in talking with the folks at the fire department, the water tanker or water tender was fully loaded with 1,600 gallons of water. Excuse me, that was the second tanker that was hit. The first tanker was loaded with 2,000 gallons of water, which is coming out to be about 16,600 pounds.
7.35.
Yeah. That vehicle was moved 6 feet sideways by the impact. And talking to the officer at the fire department, Tennessee Highway Patrol estimates the car was going between 80 and 90 miles an hour when he hit. So there's a picture of the van and a picture of some of the apparatus. And the last item, 10 days in July fire history. I put this one in simply because of the sequence of dates going from July 1 to July 9. And these were significant incidents, with the exception of the Ringling Brothers Martin and Bailey Circus Tent fire. These were all involving line of duty deaths in the fire department. Two of those were forest fires. And in 1944, the Ringling Brothers Martin and Bailey Circus Tent caught fire in Hartford. And obviously, when you have a circus tent catching fire, eventually everything goes down, not up. So that's that particular report.
Thanks, Bill. Any other comments or questions in regards to the information that's been provided? Okay, thanks again, Bill. Approval of the fire department bills. Chief?
Yeah, so same thing as police department, so I guess we'll go through that first set of bills that was approved. So one set of bills approved by Commissioner Keo on July 27th. A couple of things in there on page 11B. You'll notice a bill in the amount of $1,175.18. They are with the company we contract out with their HVAC. We've been having high humidity issues in the summer, low humidity issues in the winter since the station was built, and that's just due to the fact that our HVAC system was overbuilt when the station was built. We've been slowly trying to repair those issues. We do have the low humidity issue taken care of. This bill is the initial bill to get the high humidity issues taken care of, to get bring off the water basically in our HVAC. We'll see more bills coming for this. This was a CIP item. On page 11C, you see a large bill in the amount of $44,538.83. And this is for our portion, the fire department's portion of the simulcast system, as well as the new portable radios that we purchased several years ago. So this is that lease payment. Other than those two bills, I didn't see anything that really stood out as abnormal, but I'd be happy to answer any questions and ask for your approval.
Just a question, when we're looking at the simulcast, does that include VHF as well as UHF, or is there a separate?
Nope, that's just VHF.
VHF.
The only thing we have UHF on is our portables. So, and our mobiles actually built too, on some of them.
On 11E, the elevator maintenance, for some reason I remember seeing a bill for that already, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, so they came through and did an inspection. Schindler, I believe, is our elevator, and there were a couple issues that we had to take care of with the elevator. So that's what that bill is for.
Okay.
In regards to the radio system, how's it been working out since we've changed over?
It's funny you should ask. Actually, our crews have noticed some static in the past few days. Deputy Chief Bakis made the call yesterday to Baycom to figure out what was going on. They were able to remotely tap in, and we found we have an amplifier issue on our McMillan water tower. Sounds like it's tripping out at any time anybody keys the mic on that, so they are beginning to work on that. Could be as long as 2 weeks before that's repaired, but other than that, it's been working great.
Okay, good. Well, there's a lot of thought and effort put into that a couple of years ago. I'm glad to see it's gone a long way to resolving communications problem. Good, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the fire department bills
So,
that were signed by Andy Keo on the 27th.
Second.
Motion second, okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Keo,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Steiner,
yes,
Myers.
Yes. Now, the packet that we received this morning.
Yeah, so Commissioner Pinker was in yesterday on the 10th of August to approve the second set of bills. Really, the only thing that stands out to me is, well, it doesn't have a page number, I guess it would be on page 3 of this packet, would be for nozzles for our high-rise packs. This was a planned purchase for this year. The nozzles we did have were old and really weren't set to the proper low pressure for our high-rise packs. So we did end up purchasing 5 nozzles to complete our high-rise packs. These were reviewed by all 3 shifts, and this is what we ended up purchasing. So that actually came in under budget, which was good to know. But other than that, I didn't see anything else that really stood out to me. Happy to answer any questions.
And just for reference to the other commissioners, it's an item I did question yesterday.
I entertain a motion to approve the fire department bills that were signed by Commissioner Pinker on the 10th of August.
So move.
Second.
Second. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Keo,
Again, I'll abstain because I haven't had a chance to vote it.
Pinker,
Yes.
Stengraver,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. Thank
What
you.
is a high-rise pack?
So that is basically 200 feet of hose with a nozzle and then a fitting. So when we go into a high-rise structure like City Hall or the hospital, they have standpipe systems that we hook into. And our fire department pumps into that standpipe system. So if we have a fire on, say, 3rd floor, our firefighters are gonna take that high-rise pack up to 2nd floor and move up into the stairwell and fight that fire, utilizing that hose and that equipment.
Parkview have a standpipe system.
Yes.
Do those get tested on any kind of regular basis or inspected?
Yes, so the hose, are you talking at the facility?
At the facility?
Yes, annually, yes.
Thank you.
The next item, fire activities, training, reports, and correspondence. Chief.
Thank you again. Let's see, July, just a very busy month of tours, ride-alongs, training. We had a lot of new facility tours, and I want to specifically recognize Deputy Chief Mueller for setting these up. A lot of these are new businesses in Marshfield or altered businesses that changed. A lot of times, well, every time ever, we'll have to go out and complete an initial fire department inspection of these new businesses or altered structures. So when that happens, it's good for our firefighters to go through those buildings to look at where fire alarm panels might be or fire department connections or things of that nature. So I want to thank Everett for getting all those set up so our crews could go through and go through those structures. It's very educational for our firefighters to get in the buildings once they're altered. Beginning to sound like a broken record here, but our call volume for July 22 as compared to July 21, we're up 27% for that month. Almost hit 400 calls. Of the 382 calls for service in July, I'd like to note that 50 were from interfacility runs and 24 were from paramedic intercepts. You'll also find other statistics in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have and ask that you place the activities, training reports, and correspondence on
Any questions? Go ahead.
On the activities, just clarification, Mallard Avenue, that's on the far northeast side?
Yes, out by the wastewater plant. So southeast. Southeast. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm glad to see that we're attempting to resolve 2411 South Hume.
What is 2411?
That is a storage area that has become overstored.
Yep.
To a sense.
Right by, you'll know what you're
Yeah, you'll see it.
There's been a lot of time invested into that property to try to get this issue resolved, and it's been going on for a long time.
Long time.
Problem property.
Yeah.
And then 510 South Columbus, that's the old convent?
Correct.
Okay. So you're doing the same thing there that you did up at the hospital?
Correct, yes. We
Okay.
use that for training, yes.
Super. And then on the incident responses, I was at the Historic Preservation Commission table at the Cultural Fair, and a gentleman came up and started talking about the fire department, and part of it related to the enterprise fund. But he asked me, what are these inter-facility transports? If you're just going from one hospital to another, he says, do you need all that equipment? I tried to explain to him what the department's philosophy was in delivering emergency services, and this was not simply the case of putting somebody into an ambulance and transporting them, that they may have need for the specialized equipment. I think as the discussions of the enterprise fund go forward, I think there may be some council members that have, specific questions, and what are these definitions, and what exactly do they involve? So I think we should keep that in mind.
We can address that right now, Bill, if you'd like.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'll let Steve take it on, but interfacility runs actually, a lot of times more equipment is needed, and I'll let Steve explain a little bit better.
So interfacilities actually cover a few different types of calls. One call that we've been doing my entire career, even as a backup when Spirit was in town, are neonate transports. Those transports, we actually pick up a neonate crew from the hospital along with an isolate for the infant. The neonate crew actually does all the patient care. Our crew's there just basically to assist. But they have that specialized neonate equipment. We carry medical air on board along with the oxygen, as a lot of times these infants need a mixture of air and oxygen. So that's one style. The other one that we've been doing quite a bit are interfacility. And I'll use Neilsville as an example. We do a lot of transports from Neilsville, which is a lower level care hospital, critical access hospital, if you will. Bring them back to Marshfield where they have a lot more services. Give you an example of cardiac care. They can do a lot more cardiac care. We have a cath lab here in Marshfield that they do not have in Neilsville. We went, if you remember, a few years ago to critical care paramedic status, which is the highest level you can go in EMS. Critical care skills, medications, things that our crews use are only allowed for interfacility transports. So even the critical care status we have, we could not use on scene, and really they're not appropriate. So those patients that are coming from Neilsville, let's say with a very critical cardiac patient, they may be on a ventilator. We have transport ventilators. They may have multiple medications running on IV drips, which again, our crews have to be able to monitor and adjust in their own. So there is absolutely more equipment involved and a lot more training for those facility transports.
And then I'll go to a question posed to me about intercepts. It was along the same line, and the question arose, why don't they have an SUV so they can just put that out rather than putting an ambulance out on intercept?
And that's a very good question. It's actually something that I discussed with retired Chief Owen years ago. We looked into that. The purchase of the vehicle is a lot cheaper, obviously, than purchasing an ambulance. You would still have to have critical equipment in there. We decided that logistically with our department and our call volume, it made more sense to send an ambulance than an SUV. For example, we do get cancel intercepts where they'll call us out to intercept with a BLS service. And while en route that service, the patient improves or whatever, and they cancel us. So at that point, we would have a crew out of town in an SUV where they could not respond to any other calls. An SUV is not an ambulance. You cannot respond to 911 calls with it. So we made the decision that if we had a full crew in a legal ambulance, if they were canceled, if they finished the intercept and they were at the hospital, they would be available for call that much faster. It just made more sense to us to put a little extra money in the ambulance instead of an SUV.
And a lot of that is reliant on staffing too. So those, as Steve mentioned, they're to take an SUV, they're pretty much out of service for any EMS call. I mean, they'll be able to respond to a fire. Due to our staffing levels being low, we need to have them available in an emergency vehicle, able to respond to an emergency call if necessary. So that's the reasoning.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anything regarding the fire department activities? No other questions, we'll place those on file. Thank you for the information. We'll move into the fire department, the EMS budget, fire protection, fire prevention, chief.
So I have three different budgets for you, as Commissioner Myers alluded to: fire protection, fire prevention, and EMS. I'm not sure how we want to handle this as far as questions you may have. Just want me to run through all three budgets and answer them all at the end, or want me to pause after each budget?
All right,
Direction.
you give us an overview,
Okay.
and then we can ask questions as we go on.
Sounds great. Similar to PD, well, same for everybody, I guess. Finance initially proposed a 2% increase across the board for the 2023 budget. As Chief Goering alluded to, that was a difficult number to hit, simply due to personnel costs and overtime and health benefits. In the fire protection budget, we're proposing a 4.2% increase over the 2022 adopted, which is an increase of $119,867. Majority of the increase comes in the form of salaries and benefits. It was about $73,603 of the $119,000, or 61%. We also are battling inflation, just like everybody else. So increases in contracts, equipment, supplies, that accounted for another $13,348 over 2022. And specifically point out on page 13S of the packet, or page 17, actually the budget cover itself. You'll see that fuel costs in the fire protection budget doubled. This alone counts for $3,690. That's just due to high fuel prices right now. The remaining $32,916 increase in fire protection, the mix of training requests, equipment replacement costs, and maintenance repair costs. Specifically at the bottom of page 13N and 13O, top of 13O, I suspect there might be a question on there because it looks like we're requesting two rope rescue courses. I'd like to explain a little bit what we're looking to do. So one of the things our crew and our management staff recognize is that some of the things we do are low frequency, high risk activities. High angle rescue, confined space is one of those trainings. So what we're looking to do is get all of our personnel, and at one time all of our personnel were up and had rope rescue level 1 certification. So we're looking to do, I believe at the page 13 and the bottom. That course is to specifically start sending 6 personnel per year to get certified in rope rescue 1. You realize that it's $6,200 to send 6 people. We can't send the entire department in 1 year and get that covered because it's just too costly. So the plan is to send 6 per year. At the top of page 13O, that is the annual refresher that we are required to have by the state of Wisconsin if we are to participate in confined space rescue operations. So that's the differences between those two. Again, I expected there to be a question on that, so I figured I'd take care of that right off the bat. In fire prevention, we are proposing a 5.3% increase over 2022 adopted, which is $43,339. Of that $443,000, 83% of that cost comes from salaries and benefits. Remaining $7,000 is mainly for education and training for our fire inspectors and fire investigators. Both of these programs are very important to the function and mission of our fire department. Combined protection and prevention, we have a total increase of a combined increase of $163,206. An additional $123,750 is being requested in the CIP process this year, but that's funded by long-term debt, so you won't see it in this budget sheet. I did include that in the packet. Moving on to EMS budget. This one's a little more complicated, obviously due to the EMS Enterprise Fund issues. So when I prepared this budget, I wanted it to be accurate. I wanted it to show us operating with 12 personnel with the purchase of Ambulance 98, just as we're moving forward in a normal year. So if we include the 3 personnel in that budget, include Ambulance 98 with all the equipment that needs to go in there, we'd be operating at a net loss of $317,152. So that's what we're looking at for 2023. And this includes all of the updated information from the finance department, and they helped us out tremendously to get accurate numbers moving forward. There are a lot of numbers that we weren't seeing in previous budgets, bad debt, depreciation, things of that nature. So that is now visible to us. It's in our budget, on our budget sheet, so everybody can see it, us including the commission. I wanted to show that negative $317,152 as well, just to show that if we're going to continue to operate as we are, if council or the city decides to do nothing, that's the amount we have to make up for. Now, we're operating right now with 11 personnel per shift, which is 3 personnel down. If we were to cancel Ambulance 98, as we already have, that accounts for $373,717, which would put us at a plus $56,565 in the fund. I also reflected in the initial, budget letter on page 13F. There were several large increases in line items from 2022 to 2023, and I want to point out 2 errors that I made that I recognized yesterday, unfortunately. I'll point out those errors right now. Under depreciation of equipment, I had under 2022 adopted, it was $130,333. In 2023 projected was $88,000. It should be flip-flopped. That was actually an increase of $42,000 from last year. And also bad debt expense, I have those numbers flip-flopped in there as well. It should be $25,000 was projected. No, that one is correct, I'm sorry. It was retirement employer share, I'm sorry. Those 2 numbers were flip-flopped as well. But the difference that we're seeing in total from 2022 to 2023, based on finances numbers, we saw an increase of $342,858. So those were all numbers that were either increased or we weren't seeing last year. And as I mentioned, we're operating at a negative 317,152. It's pretty obvious to see where the EMS Enterprise Fund issues started happening. This has been happening over a number of years.
Can I make one clarifying point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to clarify, I know the chief has mentioned a few times that negative 317 is budgeted for next year, the goal's budgeted. That is based off of an estimated income for next year. So we can only do so much to estimate how many calls we're gonna run and how much we're able to collect from those calls. So based off of projections that we have, and if nothing has changed in how the enterprise fund is ran, that would be the negative 317,000.
Correct. Yeah, that would be our revenue versus expenses. As we sit right now with the EMS Enterprise Fund, we're obviously awaiting further discussion on what's going to happen with that. We realize that we can't operate at a negative $300,000 from year to year. But hopefully, again, this paints an accurate picture of where we're at and what needs to happen moving forward. We've offered several different solutions to this issue. Hopefully the city considers those solutions. Other than that, that's a brief overview. I'd like to thank Deputy Chief Backus, Deputy Chief Mueller, and Administrative Associate for Lori Panzer, as well as actually the entire fire department. Our crews go around from year to year, look at different things while they're cleaning or doing maintenance projects or whatever for items that maybe need to place in the budget for next year. So I did have quite a few requests this year. You'll notice a lot of repair maintenance projects in the budget, but we believe that all these items are needed. I've been through enough of the PFC meetings where I know Commissioner Keogh is going to ask if we put anything out that we needed, and we did not put anything out that we felt we needed for this year. So with that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions you have and ask for approval.
I've got a question on project and funding sources by department, and this is replacement of engine 4.
All the way at the back.
Way in the back. And what, now that is anticipated for 2026. So we're looking at 3 years out relative to the budget.
Correct.
What is the current lead time? I mean, if you recall, Pierce, Sutphin, Seagrave, and say, we need a truck by the end of 2026. What's your lead time?
It's been a year, 12 to 18 months.
Okay. And that's from the time we got our specs done and we put out bids.
Correct. And it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer as well.
Okay, my
But
other,
I'd certainly suspect that to be longer if you're trying to get a non-custom chassis.
sure.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Then the other item, this goes back towards the front, fire protection, it's labeled as page 11. And I held off on this question for the police department. That we've got this one. We've got publications and subscriptions for both fire engineering and firehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way the commissioners can get on a subscription so that we're all receiving those? And likewise, if there's a particular, 1 or 2 particular publications out of the police department, could the commissioners get on a subscription to receive those as well?
Yeah, we just need to up the budget amount by, I know we get probably 4 copies of each that we distribute throughout the firehouse. We'd certainly be able to do that as well, if that's the commission's as well.
Because that'll keep us updated on a number of items and shreds.
Yeah, and I think we can do that at the police department as well. I'm just paging through our pub subs and dues here. Do any jump out to you that you specifically would be interested in?
What page are you on, Travis?
I'm on page 17. And a lot of these are, products that we use, not necessarily informative.
Bill, are you suggesting a separate subscription for commission members?
A lot of these publications can do it either way. You send them to the department, or they can send them to a personal address.
See, I wouldn't mind if every time I came to a meeting, there were a packet of magazines, journals that were a month old. I mean, I don't
Sure.
need the most recent ones.
Okay,
I could take home and then bring back.
yeah. I'm looking at publications and subscriptions. That's page 17, right? And I don't see any particular law enforcement journal listed. I know one time there was a publication out there called Law Enforcement. I think the National Sheriff's Association had one. Police magazine's gone all online.
Yeah.
Is there
I think we get 2 or 3
I
that
think
come
there's a
in the
police-
mail.
something from the International Association of Chiefs of Police was out there at one time as well.
I know we get magazines like Law Enforcement Technology, and we get a number of copies of those every month. So we can do that the way Commissioner Keough is.
That would probably be the most cost effective.
That would be very beneficial for us.
My only other thought, and just throwing this out there, was if we had a basket for you guys at the department, when you come in and sign bills, you could grab the stack of magazines that are there if you wanted to, but I suppose that only helps for whichever commissioner comes in to sign the bills.
Yeah, I think bringing to monthly would be fine.
Okay.
Meetings or would be another excuse or reason for everybody to go visit the department. Not that we should have an excuse, it's very nice, but,
Yes, we should be able to accommodate that.
Super. Anyway, I move for approval of the fire department budget.
We have a motion to approve, is there a second?
I say.
Second by Keel. Any other questions or comments on the budget?
Yes, I do. Page 13M. I know that some of these subscriptions are split between 3 divisions of the fire department, but the wind direction, weather subscription, what is that? And
Yeah.
what are we using now, I guess?
So we don't have anything right now, and that's the unfortunate thing. That's something we wanted to get in here, because wind direction is very important when it comes to fires or hazmat incidents. It gives us a plume direction, smoke direction, helps us with ventilation tactics on a house. So we don't have anything with wind right now. You'll see up here, we have a weather app on our station alerting system. However, that's just a basic radar. What we're looking to do is, Streets Department has a subscription already for this weather app that we're looking at, Weather Sentry. And it's very robust, we'll put it that way. I mean, it gives street temps for them for ice and everything else. What we're looking to do is just get a tag onto a license. Since they already have it purchased, we'd just be buying a license from them and then displaying that wind direction out in the fire pole area. So when our crews are going out on a structured fire or a hazmat incident, we're able to easily look up and identify wind direction, wind speed. And that was gonna help us with response and setting up our rigs, so we're on the leeward side or the windward side of that incident, so.
Does that have mobile applications for out in the trucks and things?
Yes, so along with that subscription, you would get, and I can't remember if it was more subscriptions for your cell phones than we have staff. And that's included in that price. So we bill for them, commander phones and everything. Cool.
Let's see. The fitness testing, the top of that same page, did something change that was taken out, or what is that all about?
What we ended up doing is, in the past, if there were increases to that fitness testing or something, it would be put in as a separate line item. What we did is we just included, what you see in red there was included in the original line item. We just added that 500, and I really wish I would have brought my glasses. Yeah, what does that say? $516 into the original.
The fire is this way, Pete.
Right.
Next page, the travel and staff workforce development apprenticeship program. What is that?
Yeah, so we're one of a few departments that's still doing the apprenticeship program through the state of Wisconsin. But that is a 3-year program where our firefighters go through an actual apprenticeship, not unlike a plumbing or electrician or those types of trades, where you have to learn certain skills and certain, make sure you're keeping up with certain skills and learning techniques to get through that program. So at the end, you would get your firefighter apprenticeship certificate saying you met all these parameters, and it kind of ties in with our FTO, or Field Training Officer program. Yeah, so that's pretty much what that is.
Okay. I was kind of wondering with the rope, I'm glad you brought the rescue thing up. But at the same time, working down into 13R, where there's a whole bunch of stuff that was taken out of the budget as far as RIT packs and things. There's RIT training in here, but is it that we're missing things that are needed for rescuing firefighters from structures? I mean, that's one of the questions I have. I mean, I know the high angle thing is not something we use, and we do have tall buildings here, but will we be missing out on stuff that you need to rescue the guys in an incident? Looking at like 13R, 13S, where there's things for the RIT packs that are taken off budget. I'm just wondering if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So that was actually purchased this year.
Okay.
We ended up moving that into 22. We were able to get that purchased this year. So that's why it's in red, is that it appeared in 2022's budget spreadsheet, but we've already taken care of those items.
Okay, so you have the things you need to be able to do the RIT training and use it. Okay.
That's the kind of thing that needs to be.
What, not having the the tools and things, yes. Fire prevention, the youth fire setting training there, publication there. Is that a problem? I mean, or what is the problem?
Could you rename that?
We didn't. I thought JFS was a lot easier. Now it's,
Youth Fire Center Intervention Program.
So is there a trend? Do we have problem individuals? I mean, what's the story there on that?
I can speak to
yeah, go ahead.
Typically, this is an educational program that's offered for the community. So it's threefold. That one's going to be offered as a component to the court system for an educational opportunity to maybe curb behavior and possibly get them back on the right track. The other one is if we've got somebody that would possibly be doing some curiosity fire setting, and we typically look at that at like ages 3 to 5. There, a parent could bring somebody in, and we've got an educational process for them, and we can do one-on-one education to teach them about better fire setting behavior, I guess. The better statement of that is we're going to curb them away from fire setting behaviors and teach them the responsible way to take care of fire. So that would be the goal there, and a lot of that is curbing the behavior of the parent as well, and how the household is set up, and that's what we do through those educational processes. So we've got educators that are in place, and those educators are able to use educational plans that we've already got derived, and this also goes to a multiple discipline. So it doesn't deal with just our department, it deals with bringing someone in for mental behavior, it deals with the court system, it deals with a collaboration of different units within the city and within, I guess, Wood County.
So it used to be called juvenile fire setters. It used to be a big program amongst all departments across the state. And what happened is several years ago, we started losing support from having a counselor to lead the program. And without that, it's very difficult, nearly impossible to run a GFS program or a
Youth Fire Center Intervention Program.
program without that resource to head that up. Because if you get a child in here, and there's certain parameters that we can only educate on, if they go above those parameters, we need a place to be able to refer them to.
Okay.
So what was happening is those counselors dropped off, and our department as well as other fire departments across the state, we're starting to see a rebound in people starting to get involved in this again. So we actually started up our program in full force again earlier this year.
That's it.
Go ahead.
13L. Excuse me. About halfway down under other contractual services, you see there's a $383.
Yes.
And the explanation for it is training center garbage charge, $30 times 12.
Did we do a math there? Yes, we certainly did, didn't we?
You know, you can't have two even numbers in front of you.
You cannot. You are
An odd
100%
one.
correct.
I'll just make this comment now, unrelated to the fire. If the mayor is going to attend our meetings, you need to have a packet rather than just sitting there listening to us. You need to be able to follow along. So if you're going to come to a meeting, why don't you let Lori know, and Lori can have a packet for you.
I can certainly do that. My concern is saving another tree. And I'm actually just fine listening, and if I need to get up and look at somebody's notes, okay, that's what I represent. Obviously, when I ran for mayor, and still being the mayor, I'm not gonna change who I am, but if you feel that's a definite need, then I will embrace that. Is that fair?
Yeah, I just think it'd be helpful to you.
Well, I look at everything before I come to the meeting, trust me, I read every page.
Oh.
I do, I seriously do, Andy. Excuse me, Mr. Keel.
Yeah.
Commissioner Keel. I do read, I seriously do.
Dr. Keel.
Yeah, there you go. Well, then it's Madam Mayor. Okay, yeah.
Let's
No,
not take
seriously.
it too
So,
far.
Oh, my goodness.
if you would like that, Lori, or whoever, I have no problem, but this is my take on it, okay? And that's my respect for all commissions and board.
Well,
Okay.
to be honest, I like you here because it gives you a real sense of what happens. But I'd like you to be able to sort of play along.
And I actually moved my clients around this Thursday so I can be here.
Terrific.
So I actually forego them, which is my number one.
Yeah.
Mayor is number 3.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So I was gonna offer you my packet when we left, so
You know what? That'd be great.
I'll let you have it.
Perfect. And you know what? That'll save a tree. And again, if I need to jump in, I'll just sit next to Steven, and because there's always an open chair, and if I need to, I'll do that.
Good.
How's that sound?
Good.
Good, great.
Would you look at 12V?
12B is a
V as in Victor. Again, these are very small questions. I won't ask my big one because you anticipated I would.
Do you mean, I'm sorry,
13B?
13B?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, 13B. I'm sorry. Third up from the bottom, it says other contractual services. 12,833, 11,009, 11,004, and so on. This is one of the things about the way these reports are prepared. And that's a substantial chunk of money. I have no idea what it's for.
Right, and I probably should have explained this, I apologize, so.
Well, no, it's the way, you know, when I signed the bills, I know it was $11.57 at Menards for toilet paper. But there's a $33,000 charge that just says contractual services. You know,
So the page on 13B here is kind of a general overview of, as you're talking about, all the entire budget under contractual services. If you go to page 13, Y and 13Z, you'll see how that's broken down at that point. So the bottom of page 13Y and the top of page 13Z.
all right, help me out then. Where is that $11,000?
If you total all those up, those line items, Commissioner Keel, that'll equal, if you're looking at the 2022 column, and you total up everything in 2022, that'll equal that amount that you were referring to on 13B, that 11,000
So you're looking at the summary of all the
Yeah.
contractual services.
on B.
Yeah.
And then the breakdown,
All right.
the breakdown happens on Y.
Yeah, all right, I got it. I didn't, that helps.
Yeah, I should have explained that to begin with. That's my bad.
That's fine, that helps, thank you. I just want to make sure it's accounted for somewhere, and that's the game. I have no other questions. I think it's been very well done.
One question was some of the things that are kind of pulled off of here for as far as repairs to chairs and hoods and different things. How old is this building? I don't remember.
So we moved in August of 2010.
Okay.
So
10 years. It is, you know, and I'm not a native of Marshfield, but it's very hard for me to think about this building as being an old building. Does it seem to you that there is an unusual amount of need for repair and replacement in a building as old as this is?
With some of the areas that the generator has been a constant issue since we moved into the structure. HVAC was oversized for the structure. So a lot of the things you see are, this is the way it was built, and we're trying to make it work the way it should. So I don't know how best to explain this, that there were issues when this was built by the contractors that we're trying to remedy. Like I mentioned, the HVAC system, it was, and from what we learned from HVAC professionals, is that it was way oversized for the structure. And that's why we run into humidity issues in the winter and low humidity issues in the winter, where we're running 11 to 14% humidity when you're supposed to be at about 35%. And we're running 70+% humidity during the summer. The HVAC system being oversized sounds great, like that's a good thing, but it doesn't, when it's oversized, it doesn't circulate enough air to either bring out that moisture during the summer or get moisture into the structure in the winter. So those are some of the things that we're trying to tackle and adjust, and we're finally getting to that point where we're getting this building operating the way it should. And it's taken a long time.
Some of the other issues we've had over the past years have been due to, there was an emphasis on green technology when the station was built. I don't know if it was really experimental, but let's just say some of the technologies have failed over time, and those companies are no longer around. It has been, I think, a few maintenance issues. It's just bringing us back to a working standard on things.
And then your chairs and stuff, so the chairs that we've had, those are original to the station, so, you know, it's stuff, 12 years for a classroom chair like you're seeing, we're starting to see welds break on them and things like that, so it's just time to
Yeah, no, I
replace those items. But as far as the building, yeah, we're almost there. We almost got that where we need it.
So despite the efficiency thing being, touted and lauded, hey, this is a great thing, and words on the walls, really didn't do what it was supposed to do? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Most of our systems are still up and running. Like we still have the solar for the green technology. We haven't really had any issues with that. Stormwater system, as far as the water collecting on the roof and running into our 30,000 gallon cistern. We had a few issues with that, but those have been resolved and that's working as it should. So that actually saves on water, which is a good thing. The one item that certainly did not work for us was recycling the shower water from upstairs and using it to flush the toilets downstairs. That was one of the ideas to also save water, and that was a total failure, and that company went belly up, and we are no longer doing that. So those are some of the things that we encountered, we'll put it that way. In-floor heat is working great, the geothermal. So most of the systems are still up and working, but there are tweaks that we had to do to it to get them operating as they should. So.
But all things considered, after the building was constructed and put into service, it did win an honorable mention in the National Style and Design competition.
Every building doesn't make any difference whether it's innovative or whether it's absolutely standard. I'm on the Y board. There is a very large bill suddenly appeared. It turns out when they built the Y, they put the filtration system in the basement, which was a good thing, and then they built the Y over it. Now you can't get the old filtration system out of the basement. and it has to be replaced. Wow. That's the way it is when you build complex structures.
Yes.
Put that on paper.
Right.
I guess this is a lesson if we ever have to build future buildings to make sure we consider those things.
There's a lot of coordination that goes into that. And I've got a feeling in this case, there wasn't 100% coordination on a lot of the issues. I know a laboratory designer who, his company designed the exhaust system in a college chemistry building. And that was their function. We designed it, we installed the equipment. First time they turned the ventilation hoods on, all the doors slammed shut and it from the outside.
Because the fans are going in reverse.
They're just sucking too much air out. And they said, hey, you gotta fix it. No. We did what our contract was. We designed, we installed. You get somebody else to work out the ventilation outside. Coordination is very important.
It's, I think, these are complex buildings. And I think it's a building that the city can continue to be proud of. It's a good.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a few, I've highlighted all the issues we've had. And like you say, every building is going to have its issues. It's just a matter of, tweaking it to make it work the way it should over a period of time. And I think we're finally there after 12 years, getting this operational the way it should work. So.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a motion and a second to approve the Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department budget for 2023. Do you have any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Keo,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Steinberger,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, good job.
Mike, I'd like to just make the comment that Terry Franklin used to make how often. Our job is to present a budget to the city that reflects what we think the police and fire departments truly need to perform their services to the city in the next year. If it's a little above, it's a little above. If it's a lot above, it's a lot above, and if we could make it less, we would. But we don't reduce. Even if we know the city is stressed financially, we need to represent what we really need. And then we need to go through a process.
And much appreciated. Yeah, just my 4 months in office, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we're at a point where, depending on where we go with item 14 or 15, I'm suggesting, being that we're going on 2 hours of a meeting here, if you'd prefer, we could move this discussion, continued review and discussion of the commission's mission statement, orientation outline, and job duties to the next meeting. I have gotten input from Bill a couple times. I've not received any input otherwise, so I'm thinking that you're just still thinking about it. But if we can get to the point where everybody can respond with any possible changes in the next month or so, then maybe we can have a packet of proposed changes and suggestions at the next meeting that everybody provides to me, and then we can go on with the discussion. I know you're prepared, Bill, but I prefer to see some more input from the rest of the commission to get to a point where we can actively discuss that.
I hope everybody got the email from me.
I did, yes.
Okay. And I sent that out simply as discussion points. You can add, subtract, multiply, divide, whatever you want to do with that.
You've obviously put some good thought into that, and I'm in favor of a few of those suggestions that you've made. But I think the same type of input from the rest of the commission would be helpful for having a healthy discussion on this. So if we're gonna continue to review that, I'd take a break right now, but otherwise we have one item number 14 to discuss. And if we agree to just drop number 15, then we're okay with time. I had 2 hours, and you wanna stretch and you wanna think about something else.
I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
20 minutes.
If it's any longer, we'll come and get you. We know people that can help.
Gonna move right to 14.
Yeah, we'll move right into 14. I put this on the agenda because the city made a move after several attempts to reaffirm the idea of banning, disallowing carry firearms in the city building, and especially City Hall. This is important for 2 reasons, because it addresses the facilities, in particular City Hall, but it also addresses personnel from, in carrying firearms. So regardless of that point, I think that we need to either reaffirm that we do not want people to carry firearms in a fire station, police station, and I'm thinking the fire training facility, obviously not the range. But more or less authorized. Some people are authorized, but the police department are authorized to carry weapons. But from the general public to continue the ban on the general public from carrying firearms in our facilities that we govern. If somebody feels very strongly to allow people to do that, now's the time that we can discuss that. If you want to reaffirm the ban we have in place right now, we can do that. But I think it's a point in time in discussion citywide to address that in particular. Because the question will probably come up, well, you know, they did it at City Hall, do we do it here? Well, we're in a position to regulate that as a commission. So, first of all, I think if we could open it up to either representatives of the two departments for your, I'm sorry I didn't discuss this with you earlier, but your general feeling in regards to banning firearms in the city, these two departments.
I can go first, I guess. I certainly am against us, especially our firefighters, carrying firearms into the structure. Just isn't a good mix. We're not police officers. We don't want firearms being carried on a person on EMS calls or even in the station. So as far as the sign's concerned, I am for leaving that sign in place to ban firearms from being allowed inside the station.
Okay.
It's pretty simple for me.
Carlos, can you speak for the department?
Yeah, and we're obviously a little bit unique that way. And we have our signs up. We plan to continue to leave those signs up, and you know, there's statutory language out there that prohibits the carrying of a firearm in a police station anyways. So we're protected at that level as well. And same as Chief Letty said, we would be in favor of continuing that and not allowing the common public to be carrying firearms within our building.
And I would mirror that with both, and a couple of the buildings, the library, and a few more. My personal feeling is I don't believe that they want to take it farther to different entities. City Hall is what Mike had proposed, O'Reilly. At this point, I don't see it going any farther than that. That's my feeling as listening to things and watching things. I'm glad I didn't have to break the tie that night, I'll tell you that, you guys. Very glad I didn't have to break that tie. But anyway, that's my perspective on it. But again, I'm totally in your corners. You know, if I do have to break a tie there, I definitely would do that. And I can't imagine that the aldermen would think this is okay because of what you both represent to the city.
Okay. And, you know, I feel strongly one way about it, and I think that, but in regards to the two departments, I want to protect our ability to stand alone, reaffirm, and I think a vote in that direction would be very helpful for any future discussion about this subject, especially about the departments that we oversee. So if you want to continue the ban, I'm more than willing to oblige your request. So, any discussion?
Yes, as Travis alludes, the PD is a completely different animal because there's statutory obligations there, and there's even areas like the booking room where they can't even carry their weapons by state statute. So they have even they have obligations inside the department. So that's a whole different thing. I mean, they have to, that by default. I mean, it's state statute. And that makes sense because it is a secure area just because of what they do there. Here, if we did not have the security and the doors that we have here and the locks and the systems for that here, I would have questions. Here's why. Because it's great to put a sign on a door, but if you don't have something physically disabling or physically metering access to people or not, the sign doesn't do anything. Honestly, that's my opinion. But I understand why, because it's not your monkeys. You guys don't have the training for that. There might be individuals that feel one way or another. I might agree with them, but I understand why. Situations like the hospital where there's signs, but it's an open range, wild, wild west up there, and it's a tactical nightmare for those guys. What point is there a sign? That's my personal opinion. But for departments, I do understand the decisions, and I do approve of the choices that we have available to us in front of that. Philosophically, I don't like it, but I understand the reasons why here. So.
Well, obviously, there's going to be exceptions to it. Even with the security we have at the door,
Right.
if they open the bay doors up, somebody can just walk right off the
Well,
street.
you know,
And I think what the sign says is we prefer, or it's preferred that we not have any firearms in this building.
Right.
And, if Joe Public wants to do it, he's gonna do it. But it can be upfront that, and it's reassuring to some people to know that they're in the company of people who aren't carrying firearms. But there's so many different discussions on this, that that's why I brought it to the commission to reaffirm or otherwise on this subject. Bill?
Given the nature of the police department, which is clearly specified in statute, that's no problem. Viewing the fire department as a public safety organization, and viewing the fact that we have within the facility controlled substances, I'd certainly be in favor of having that particular prohibition on firearms. Admittedly, the sign on the door does not protect anyone. Several years ago, when the library reposted themselves, I had a discussion with the Board of Trustees over there, and they seem to believe that for their facility, the philosophical nature that we do not want weapons in our facilities. The important thing, whether or not they can enforce it or not. If we're going to post the building, however, even with a sign that doesn't protect us, this specifically relates to firearms. I believe the signs on all of the municipal buildings that are posted reference firearms and weapons. We have a problem if the present sign says firearms and weapons. Professionally, some of the things I do take me into municipal facilities, government centers, county buildings, whatever. I'll use the two that I have been in most recently. Clark County Courthouse, the Marathon County Courthouse. I cannot carry into either of those buildings. I cannot carry my Leatherman micro tool. I cannot carry a Leatherman or the equivalent made by another company. I cannot carry a Swiss Army knife. And I do wonder how they treat contractors who have Leatherman, carry buck knives, wood cutters, carpet cutters, etc. The weapon issue beyond firearm is unenforceable.
well, anything's a weapon. I mean, this right here is a weapon.
You know, that we'll forget. But common everyday things that people carry. Swiss Army knife, well, it's a tool. MacGyver uses it. You know, what does he cut with his tool? He cuts wires. There was a young man in front of me at the Marathon County Courthouse who apparently was a carpenter, some sort of construction helper. And they wouldn't let him carry his Leatherman in. His comment was, but dude, it's only a Leatherman. He didn't think it had anything about the knife. It had a plier, it had screwdrivers, it had a wire stripper on it. They viewed it as a weapon. So if we want to repost this, we have to be very cautious about what we're going to have on our sign. Do we mean firearms and weapons? And are we going to define everything from a Leatherman micro tool to a razor blade paint scraper, or are we going to say no firearms? If you want to say no firearms, fine.
That's what your wish be.
I know our firefighters, even on turnout gear, carry knives. Case of
Carry Leatherman.
Carry Leatherman, whatever, just due to the fact that if you get tangled in wires, you gotta pull it out of your turnout gear and cut those wires. But yeah, speaking to Bill's, Commissioner Packer's point, kind of, I guess, not obeying our own sign if we're carrying buck knives or Leathermans. So I can see the point behind that. And I think the intent of the sign was for no firearms. And I'd have to go out and read the sign and see what it says again. But I believe that was the original intent.
You know, keep them out of the building. I think Travis could contradict me on this. Fine. I think Wisconsin has been in a unique position where, in contrast to some other states, we haven't had a whole lot of people push the issue on anything from open carry to concealed carry. Go over to Michigan, which for decades has been a hotbed of militia activity. You know, that's a different situation. Some other states where people have pushed the envelope. We haven't really found that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there are places like this building with its controlled substances, the police department. We should prohibit that. So I will, if you need a motion on that, I will move to reaffirm the current ban disallowing the general public to carry firearms in all Marshfield public safety buildings.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Andy. Any further discussion or input from the departments or otherwise?
I'm pretty certain that the current placards that I believe are similar across the city show a image of a gun and a knife, and I believe they say weapons are prohibited on this premise, so something to look at.
Does your statute cover just firearms, or is that all weapons, Travis, do you know?
Well, the statute specific to concealed carry speaks to weapons, and so when they look at the definition of a weapon, they talk about firearm, taser. Billy club is thrown in there. There's never been a definition given for what a billy club actually is.
Somebody's carrying a baton. I don't know where they're carrying that sucker.
Yeah, but whether concealed or not concealed, they're prohibited from our building. So, but your building is not specified.
Right. I was just curious, but your definition.
You know, I think those signs are the same as if I own a building and put a sign on the door saying no dogs allowed. I'm telling everybody I don't want dogs in my building. If they bring a dog in my building, I can go to them and say, we really don't want dogs in our building. Take your dog outside. And they say, I don't want to, then I've got a situation to deal with. But at least I let everyone know I don't want a dog in my building. Well, I don't want a gun in my building. I don't care if it's a long gun or a short gun. I don't want a gun in my building.
All right, it's not a monetary thing or anything, but I'd like a roll call on this one.
Keel,
Yes.
Tinker,
Yes.
Steingraber,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. Okay.
That was for firearms specifically, right?
Yes. Firearms.
And you're covered by statute, so. Yeah. Okay. And this will include the fire training area?
Yes, we can post them.
If it's not already?
Yeah, he said public safety.
Public safety buildings.
Okay. Related training facilities. All right, thank you very much. The items for future meetings, obviously one of them is going to be the continued discussion on our goals and missions and duties. Bill, do you had another one?
Based upon what's happening with the council's discussions about finances, I strongly believe we need a special meeting of the commission as soon as possible to discuss our strategies, to take a look at information that we could have available for the council. I think also we should, this would include statistics from the fire department, EMS operations, information about what other communities are doing, and, develop a strategy. And certainly, we're not going to tell the common council what they're gonna do with budgets. It has to be made very clear. They assign the budget, we can spend it. But I think we should have some alternatives that we can throw out to the council. And certainly make, tell the council that we are available, we can do research and present information to you. Now, I will point out that on Friday, October 21st, at the League of Municipalities Conference in La Crosse, there is a 1-hour open session regarding funding first responders. There's got to be a better way. I will guarantee you right now, at least half the common council is going to be at that meeting. Now, that's in October. So fire department, I would anticipate fire department discussions would not arise until after that date, but we should be prepared beforehand and make sure that individually and as the department that we've got information.
Yeah, well, Jennifer and Steve are going to be talking about it and thinking about it, and council members are going to be talking among themselves and to the mayor and to Steve and to Jennifer. And I would like us to be prepared with an alternative or two of our own to share with those decision makers. I think I would agree with Bill. We need to meet here pretty quick and talk up what
Right, and
what we think about the issues and what.
Right, and at least what I've heard since I left the meeting the other evening, there are people out there that are not happy. Amongst the 10 people that have been elected by the public, I have heard that a lot of them are, let's say, angry, to be polite, about the situations that has developed. So we have to be adequately prepared. I think we have got to be prepared for the entire spectrum, including fire department staffing, EMS staffing, to how do other cities bill out their services or fund their services. And I think we've got to have a strong base of communities. Last night, between TV and commercials, I put together a list of 38 communities, which I think could provide us a basis. Do you have fire department EMS? Do you have EMS from another community organization, like a separate municipal ambulance group? Have you privatized? Are you working with full-time personnel, paid on-call firefighters, volunteer firefighters? So we've got a good idea of what's being done out there and how are they funded these.
Well,
And I also think on that list we're going to have to at least look at some border communities, in particular the south side, south end, looking at, say, Dubuque, Iowa, north, Duluth and Superior, Winona, Minnesota, just across from Wisconsin. I've got a list here, I'll just give this to Steve. And there's other stuff on the other side. And if we have a special meeting, I can get that out.
well, I just think we need to be proactive, be forward, and try and find a solution that serves everybody as well as we can.
Right, and
And to be honest, I don't know why people don't think this way, but they don't. Our interests as a commission and the city's interests are not the same. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a commission. And it's the balance between them. It's, if you like, the tension between the city and the commission that ought to come to a better solution to these things. And just so everyone remembers, there are cases of cities suing police and fire commissions. And there are cases of police and fire commissions suing cities.
we're in an independent entity from the city. We're not the city. And so we need to do our work and not depend on them to solve our problems. So there.
I'll just make one more comment. Whether it was in education or professional activities afterwards, I have done a lot of threat assessment, hazard assessment, emergency preparedness planning. And one of the things I and my colleagues have always looked at is worst case scenario. You can't do that effectively unless you look down that route. And I think one of the things, any discussions we're having within the commission, we have to consider worst case scenario.
Well, worst case to me would be to privatize it and take it out of the fire department. And that would be absolutely the worst case.
Right, and that has to be in any discussions and planning that we do.
Okay, well, I know the city has expressed an interest in taking care of this as soon as they can, at least from the input they provided the other evening at the council meeting. And I know that we have a readily available list of possibilities that we can consider. But again, the presentation that was made at the joint meeting by the fire chief and his department was like, in a nutshell, it was going from 0 to 60 in 1 hour. And they've had the last 2 months to consider all this. That's the point I tried making. It was a shock when we first heard about it. We worked through a lot of the stuff and presented something that somebody might want to consider to change it or to adjust it. We're to that point, and I think further discussion would be helpful through this commission. I mean, I hate to keep hanging it out there but it's not going to go away until everybody cooperates and gets a plan that's going to work for everybody. So, and that a special meeting might be worth considering in the next month or so. I know everybody's going to be working on it. It'd be interesting when everybody at some point comes together with suggestions and takes care of the problem. I'm led to believe by a discussion with a former police and fire commissioner who I respect for being very good with numbers, said that the solution to this isn't that difficult, and that it could, with some attention to certain items, it could very well resolve itself within a short period of time. Not to quote him directly, but that was encouraging to hear from.
But it still remains. We have to be fully prepared.
Yeah.
We need to have a plan.
Yeah, we're obligated to move ideas forward that we come up with.
And I would venture that Alderman Wagner is going to have a plan for the council at the next meeting.
Yeah. Okay, we won't set a timeline on it, but somewhere in the next month you can expect to see Lori getting a hold of you to try to coordinate schedules.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I'd say in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Are we adjourned?
And in regards to the league meeting, I plan on going to La Crosse for that 1 hour meeting. I've always respected input from the league when I was involved for so many years with the city directly. So if there's some arrangements I have to make through one of the departments to facilitate that, I certainly.
In the past, it has been through the fire department, as I remember.
Yeah. Yep.
And I believe it is $130 for a non-member for 1 day attendance.
There goes your budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can talk about that as soon as,
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. If I hear no objections,
Good. Now, before you guys leave,